One day, people around the world discovered a transcendent entity that exists more fundamentally than atoms in matter. It creates emotions, memories, and other complex things. It is called logic. Thanks to logic, gods existing in other worlds can appear in the real world, all to prepare for the battle for the survival of the worlds. Back to the present, suddenly a magic formation appears in the sky above a city. We now meet our main character, Yoshi, who lives with his father and younger sister Shiori. Their mother passed away early, so their father had to raise both siblings alone. Shiori accuses her brother of staying up late last night doing something secretive. The little girl thinks her brother was secretly watching something indecent, but their father believes it's normal for a boy his age. They then hear an announcement about a level 3 disaster. Yoshi suddenly becomes worried and hides under the table, but his sister and father remain calm as a level 3 disaster isn't too severe. Meanwhile, outside, some girls are fighting hard against a monster. A girl in black has just been injured, but a girl in pink comes to heal her. At this moment, the monster is behind them, so a sword-wielding girl rushes in to deliver a fatal blow. The monster then reverts back to a human and a dog. The disaster has been resolved. Back to Yoshi's family. The father has returned to his room, so Shiori invites her brother to go buy a birthday gift for their dad. When they go out, Yoshi suddenly dresses up in disguise. It seems he has some kind of past and doesn't want others to know. He then notices an organization forcing a girl named Yukari to go with them. Although she tries to refuse, the rules force her to comply. Yukari then meets someone who is the bureau chief. She informs Yukari that she is a special individual, one in a million. Here we also meet again the 3 girls who fought in the morning's disaster. According to the bureau chief, the abilities of individuals like Yukari usually appear during puberty and disappear when they reach adulthood. The bureau chief is also approaching that stage. She introduces Yukari to her covenant god, Nemesis. Basically, those who awaken their powers have a mission and duty to fight to protect peace in this area. Suddenly, there's a report of a disaster detected nearby. Its level is 7, so it's quite dangerous. At this moment, the Yoshi siblings are shopping for their father's birthday gift when a monster suddenly appears in the middle of the shopping center. According to the people, we learn that the monster will contaminate the surrounding area, and anyone who touches the contaminated area it creates will die. Yoshi then sees a child left behind, so he tells his sister to lead the little boy out. He stays behind to distract the monster. He climbs onto a chair to run in the opposite direction to attract the monster's attention. He is then helped by a girl, and they run up high together to avoid danger. The other girls have arrived to deal with the monster, but it suddenly shrinks and runs away. The girls can't catch up, so they can only report back to the security bureau to close the gates. The gates are closed and people can safely resume their activities afterward. Shiori has now reunited with her father, and they still haven't seen Yoshi. He has now gone to meet the girl who just helped him. He knows she's not from this world, and somehow she knows about his true identity and background. She introduces herself as Athena, and she knows that he is also a power user like those girls at the security bureau. She wants to be his covenant god, and she has also found the card containing Yoshi's lost power. Shiori and their father have now arrived, and when Shiori hears about Yoshi being able to fight again, she immediately objects. The little girl wants her brother to stop doing dangerous work and continue living as a normal citizen. But he wants to regain his power to protect his family, because he knows the current security bureau won't be enough to fight against higher-level disasters. Suddenly, the monster from earlier appears again. Yoshi then takes the card from Athena and leaves to fight. The father advises Shiori to let Yoshi's time continue to flow. He then gets in the car with Athena and asks her why she chose him. The girl reveals that 2 years ago, in Hong Kong, he sacrificed his power to save all lives in a major disaster. His action moved Athena, and she decided to protect this world with him. They then formed a covenant and transferred all their power to each other. They sealed the covenant with a kiss. The group of girls is now struggling as the monster continuously fires. It has just destroyed the car they were hiding in when Yoshi rushes out with a shield to block the attack. He then tells them to prepare to attack. As soon as the monster stops firing, he crouches down for the sword-wielding girl to jump up and launch a finishing blow on the monster. Everyone is unsure who Yoshi is, but he seems to have combat experience. He then transforms back, and everyone is surprised that Yoshi is the one who made a covenant with Athena. When returning home, Sister Shiori doesn't accept Yoshi going back to the security bureau to fight. But he comes to comfort his sister and promises not to do anything stupid like 2 years ago. He successfully convinces his sister and receives her approval. He is then taken to the security bureau, and the bureau chief informs the girls that he was once a power user, but retired after performing a forbidden technique. He then enters but wants to postpone the greetings as he wants to sleep now. But as soon as he enters the room, he sees Athena inside and runs out startled. The bureau chief informs him that he will be staying with Athena to strengthen the covenant between them. The next morning, Yoshi wakes up and Athena knows he just dreamed about her because she also dreamed about him. They then meet the head of the security bureau, Jarno. He knows of Yoshi's reputation, but here he will start over as a new member, and in 2 days there will be a power test. Suddenly, a young man named Olga appears and informs that his power tells him Yoshi will face misfortune in the upcoming test. Jarno tells him to ignore Olga. 2 days later, the power test takes place and everyone must participate. Yoshi wonders about Olga, but the bureau chief tells him to ignore him. Nemesis then poses questions for everyone to answer. First is about the origin of the monsters. They come from a planet called Heaven. Many years after the war on that planet, the demons opened gates to invade this world. From later questions, we learn that this world only has 5 branches of the Security Bureau. After a day of testing, everyone has finished and Yoshi and the class president are the 2 who achieved maximum scores. The blonde friend here has the lowest score, so she's forced to cook. What she serves everyone is a large hamburger. It's not too bad, but the dipping sauce is different. Yoshi is the first to experience it and set an example for everyone. He thinks this is the misfortune Olga mentioned. Suddenly, his sister calls saying there's a situation at home specifically. Their father has brought a woman home. After the call, the girls come to ask about it. They all want to try being his girlfriend. But the class president informs that since he has made a covenant with Athena, it means she will have to follow him for life. He's wondering why the class president seems quite upset with him. Yukari informs him that the class president is angry about him skipping the greeting part that day. So Yoshi runs out to apologize and wants to get to know everyone. The blonde friend is Chloe and her covenant god is Valkyrie. The black-haired girl is Mana and her covenant god is Artemis. The class president is Tamaki and her covenant god is named Venus. Tamaki asks about Yoshi's total transformation time, as hers is over 200 hours. She's considered the earliest to awaken her power in the group. But Yoshi's total transformation time is 10 times that of Tamaki, at 2,000 hours. The reason Athena gives is that Yoshi has a very fast power recovery time. He only needs 5 minutes of rest to be able to transform back and fight. He then asks everyone about Olga, but no one says anything. So Yoshi has to call his old friends at the Hong Kong branch. He calls to check in and also to ask them about Olga, because the people here are trying to hide something from him. Meanwhile, Olga suddenly visits the prison to meet the monster that Yoshi's group had just captured earlier. The next day, the whole group participates in a combat training session. The control room staff analyzes monster data and creates tests for the power users to choose the most effective attack methods. Olga also comes to watch. Inside, Mana is in a corner for sniping. Chloe still charges forward to attack the monster. And if there's any danger, Yoshi rushes in with his shield to support. Tamaki still has the job of healing those who are injured. Yukari can only observe from outside as she doesn't have a covenant god yet, so she can't fight. Yukari asks about combat concepts and is informed that Covenant gods and power users have an energy called logic. When transforming, power users borrow logic from their Covenant gods to increase their strength and fight. However, there's another condition where power users or humans can be possessed by monsters. Yukari wonders about what Yoshi did 2 years ago, but the bureau chief doesn't want to reveal it because it's forbidden. However, Olga casually informs her that the state Yoshi used that day involved using all the logic in himself. This is forbidden because it causes a person to lose part of their personality, but being a forbidden measure, it can only be used with the bureau chief's permission. Back to the training session, Chloe is about to charge in for the finish, but Yoshi suggests letting Mana handle it this time. So Mana jumps down from above, leaps onto the monster's head, and fires a few finishing shots. Outside, Yoshi once again asks why Olga doesn't train. He claims he's already passed everything, so he doesn't need to train. Suddenly, there's another disaster alert, but it's only level 1, so Yoshi is called to go because of his quick recovery ability. However, he wants to see Olga perform. The bureau chief still requires him to go, and Nemesis informs him that Olga is both a power user and not one. Not fully understanding, Yoshi asks Athena on the way, but she still keeps it secret and wants him to focus on the job first. He then arrives at a kindergarten where the monster this time has only possessed a child to cause trouble. He easily thwarts all its tricks and forces it to release the child. A while after returning to the base, Yoshi meets Olga again at the prison and asks what he's doing there. Athena doesn't want to hide anymore, so she tells him that Olga is a power user but doesn't have a Covenant god yet, which is why he recklessly wants to make a covenant even with monsters. Olga swears he'll find a stronger Covenant god than Yoshi's to confront him. Yoshi and Tamaki are then called to meet Jarno. He informs them that although Olga is a bit strange, his predictions are usually very accurate. Also, Jarno wants to appoint Yoshi as the new team leader, replacing Tamaki. She disagrees, but the chairman's order is absolute, so she reluctantly turns away. The next morning, as soon as he wakes up, Athena notices that Yoshi is troubled by Tamaki's situation. Meanwhile, Tamaki has written a letter to her older sister, thinking she has disappointed her by losing the team leader title. When the whole group has breakfast together, Tamaki suddenly doesn't eat a bite and just leaves, making Yukari think her cooking doesn't suit Tamaki's taste. But Venus comforts Yukari, saying Tamaki occasionally acts up like this. Olga tells Yoshi that if he wants to understand more about Tamaki's situation, he should go ask the bureau chief. He then goes to Nemesis and the bureau chief's messy room and learns about Tamaki's past. She once wanted to become a doctor to treat people affected by diseases caused by monster-contaminated areas. But then her power awakened, turning her into a power user. Tamaki never complained about anything and always did a good job, so she was chosen as the team leader. In terms of valuing lives, Tamaki is similar to Yoshi, just that Tamaki is a bit too concerned about appearances. Just then, an alarm goes off, and this time the disaster involves 2 level 4 monsters appearing. The team quickly heads to the disaster site. They split into 2 teams, with the 2 attack specialized girls going as one pair, and Tamaki and Yoshi as another pair. According to the bureau chief, these 2 monsters have escaped several times before. Therefore, the 2 attack specialized girls are tasked with quickly eliminating their target, while Yoshi's team is to buy time until the other team finishes and comes to deal with the remaining monster. Chloe uses her strongest move right from the start. Yoshi stands in front of Tamaki to block the opponent from attacking her. Mana uses a technique to become invisible and hide herself. Chloe continues to attack directly from the front. The monster, thinking it has the upper hand, charges forward and exposes a weakness, immediately taking a full power shot from Mana from behind. The plan to use Chloe as bait has succeeded. On the other side, the monster is absorbing power and gradually getting stronger, forcing both Yoshi and Tamaki to switch to offense. The bureau chief orders Tamaki to kill the monster outright. She hesitates, so Yoshi has to charge in and use his shield to attack the monster. It flees, leaving behind the possessed person to escape. Upon returning, Tamaki is reprimanded for disobeying orders. Back in the room, Yoshi is dissatisfied because Tamaki values life, so it's not easy for her to accept taking a life like that. Athena notices that Yoshi is indeed compassionate, and she likes that about him. Suddenly, the monster appears again. Since no one has recovered yet, the bureau chief will personally go into battle with Yoshi this time. They arrive and prevent the female monster from absorbing more energy from the surroundings. The bureau chief releases a bunch of bombs to surround the monster. She asks Yoshi to protect the surrounding civilians. He raises his shield to cover them as the bureau chief detonates the bombs. He thinks this is the bureau chief's strongest move, but it's not. These are just basic attacks. Meanwhile, Tamaki sits dejectedly in a corner, annoying Venus. She has to stand up and ask Tamaki to stop overthinking and go with her. They both then arrive at the scene to fight. Tamaki sees many people affected by the disease spread by the monster and wants to treat them, but Venus wants her to focus on the most important thing first. She then runs and sees that the bureau chief has beaten the monster badly. The monster, now cornered, leaves its host body and rushes to possess the people behind Tamaki. But she uses her whip to stop it. The bureau chief again asks Tamaki to kill the monster. Yoshi objects, saying violence isn't always the solution. But Venus explains to Tamaki that she doesn't need to love every creature in the world. She should be cruel to creatures capable of causing misfortune to many others. Now understanding her ideals clearly, Tamaki swings her whip and finishes off the monster. The bureau chief thinks this action is cruel to Yoshi, but everyone has their own perspective, so she doesn't force him to accept this behavior. The next morning, Tamaki comes to the dining table and apologizes to everyone for her strange behavior over the past few days. She is then forgiven by everyone. Tamaki then also came to thank Yoshi because he had the heart to stop her from killing that monster. She decided from now on to put her trust in him. He then stood up to say a few words, which prompted Chloe to tease him for trying to act like a model team leader. That day, a disaster alert was issued at level 9.8, the highest ever, but it only appeared for a moment and then disappeared. Athena suddenly ran off and encountered someone named Lucifer. He was a demon god and the one who created the recent 9.8 disaster. He informed her that from now on he would come to the human world to live because this place seemed interesting. Many years ago, when the security bureau only had Tamaki in the field, she had once rescued Chloe from a disaster and was seriously injured. Chloe then decided to become a powered individual to join the fight. And now in the present, Chloe still diligently runs every morning. She used this red light pole as a marker and ran straight to the next light pole. This is the record she always tries to surpass each time she runs. She then went to the bureau chief's place. The chief and the investigation team were examining the location where the 9.8 disaster appeared last night. But there were almost no clues because the disaster didn't last long. Chloe then returned to the group for breakfast. Today's breakfast was cooked by Athena, and she only managed to make dried fish sandwiches. Everyone ate just to get through the meal, and Tamaki reminded Chloe not to go to the investigation area anymore to avoid being reprimanded by the investigation team. The group then asked Venus who she thought was capable of causing the recent disaster. She mentioned a few demon gods, but was immediately stopped by Athena when she started to say Lucifer's name. Chloe later went to the media room to borrow a computer for a while. She then reviewed the camera footage from last night's disaster and found a girl at the scene. She knew this girl had merged with the one who caused the 9.8 disaster, so she traced her location to go find her. Just as Chloe was cycling to the girl's location, the bureau chief and Yoshi's group also discovered that Chloe was acting on her own again, but they left her alone to see if she could get any useful information. Suddenly, there was a level 4 disaster alert nearby, so Chloe set off first. Yoshi's group quickly set out after her, but a moment later there was a report of a new disaster elsewhere. so Yoshi wanted Chloe to regroup with him at the new location. But Chloe decided to deal with the first disaster on her own, so Valkyrie split from the group to join Chloe. The two soon met up and transformed to fight against balls that might have been created by monsters. As for Yoshi's side, they also encountered these balls on the way, so Mana went out to shoot some of them. Yoshi also cooperated with Athena to go out and fight. Chloe on the other side had quickly dealt with the balls, but then realized there were tombstones inside them. Meanwhile, Mana couldn't support Yoshi in time, so he was hit by a whole car thrown by those balls. When they returned, Chloe was scolded by Tamaki for acting on her own again, but she believed she should handle disasters as quickly as possible. Although Yoshi's injury was unintentional, Chloe couldn't see the enemy in front of her and not fight. Yoshi is currently fine and will wake up soon. Jonar believes that Yoshi is a fighting force they must protect at all costs. Chloe still doesn't understand why Tamaki is nagging her because she's just doing what she thinks is right. As soon as Yoshi woke up, Tamaki came to apologize for Chloe's thoughtless actions. He's still quite sore after the battle, but he doesn't blame anyone and doesn't make a big deal out of it, so she doesn't need to apologize. Suddenly, a monster alert sounded again, estimating about 70 creatures. Olga is now very eager to transform with the monster, but it doesn't want to. The bureau chief hasn't allowed anyone to act until they recover their energy, so only Yoshi can go into battle. He then arrived at the scene and encountered dozens of those balls. Though weak, their numbers could make up for quality. Artemis can only pray for Yoshi and Athena to return safely. After that, both transformed and began to enter the battlefield. Tamaki and Chloe were still waiting for their energy to recharge, but it would take more than 20 minutes, so Venus told the driver to set off gradually. The two goddesses then wanted them to make up, or at least express all their dissatisfactions with each other. Tamaki asked why Chloe always sneaks into the investigation area without permission. Chloe seemed unaware that the investigation team always called her a troublesome warmonger. The driver then changed the route to give the two girls more time to argue with each other. Tamaki believed that Chloe's actions on her own always caused trouble for her teammates, with Yoshi being the most recent example. But Chloe thought that she at least wanted to walk on her own feet and didn't want to completely follow orders like a machine. They then arrived at the scene and transformed to continue arguing. Tamaki believed they were a team and should support each other in battle, but Chloe delusionally thought she was strong enough to handle the whole world without teammates. Yoshi had run out of energy and was forced to revert from his transformed state. Tamaki came to support both of them and said that from now on she would also strive to protect her friends. Chloe then enlarged her sword and swung it to clear the balls, but they didn't know where the main creature was because these seemed to be just puppets. The real one then emerged from the pile of puppets and was spotted and caught by Tamaki. She then recalled memories of when Chloe first joined the team and how they fought together. So Tamaki used her own rope to create a path for Chloe to rush in and finish off the monster. That evening when they returned, Chloe and Tamaki made up with each other. Athena also apologized to Yoshi for the poor transformation today. Seeing everyone worried about her, she decided to reveal that she had met Lucifer, the one who brought the 9.8 disaster. A few days later, for some unknown reason, Artemis and Mana had both disappeared. The two friends weren't too worried and revealed that when Mana was young, she had lost her parents, or rather, was abandoned. Although she was taken to an orphanage, Mana couldn't get along with anyone. She always went back to the place where she was abandoned and left letters. They're hoping that one day her parents would come back to find her. So occasionally at night, she still goes out. The bureau chief knew but didn't mind. Until now, no one had ever seen Mana smile. Yoshi called home asking his father for help on how to make a girl happy, and his father only suggested trying with food. However, he followed his father's advice too literally and made a dish inappropriate for the situation, causing a backfire. Moreover, he was misunderstood by Tamaki as having bad intentions. He then ran after Mana to speak directly instead of applying those silly methods. He apologized for just wanting to be friends, But Mana didn't mind and continued to run away. He shared that he was quite happy to have powers again after the outbreak 2 years ago. Mana wanted to hear what it felt like to experience an outbreak. He said that at that time he was completely desperate, so he resorted to that method out of desperation. It took away his previous personality, but fortunately, emotions remained, so now he doesn't think about using that thing again. Suddenly, an alarm sounded again, and this time it was a flying monster with a level of 6.5. The group quickly set out and transformed, then entered where the monster was hiding. They planned to strike quickly before it woke up and flew away, but when they tried to approach, Chloe and Tamaki were caught, and their energy was drained quite quickly, forcing the bureau chief to have them retreat. Only Yoshi and Mana were left inside. Since energy was only drained when close, hope was placed on the shooter Mana. Yoshi would have to take on the task of protecting Mana so she could shoot. She began to hide and find a suitable shooting angle, but even when shot, it had no effect because the monster was very tough. Everyone felt that she was just scratching the monster, and with its reptilian senses, the monster quickly discovered Mana despite her being hidden. A swarm of snakes rushed in and caught Mana, forcing Yoshi to quickly get her out. The whole group had to temporarily retreat while Mana was taken back for treatment. The monster remained in its previous position. Mana and Yoshi both wanted to be alone afterward, so Athena went outside to look at the night sky. She noticed that in the distance, the electric lights were gradually going out, and soon the entire base was the same. The effects from the monster's contaminated area had spread to the power station, causing the whole city to fall into chaos. With no traffic lights and hospitals constantly calling for support, the latest time they had was until tomorrow morning. Janner himself had to come here and had called for help from everywhere. Olga predicted that if they couldn't get close to the snake, their chances of winning were nearly zero. Seeing the situation in the hospital, Mana immediately left with Artemis to go to the scene. She had asked permission from her superiors to use the burst because she just wanted to start over. Yoshi didn't accept this and also ran off. Janner left the decision to the bureau chief, saying he would take full responsibility if she allowed Mana to use the burst, despite everyone's attempts to dissuade her. But Yoshi stopped her because he was ready to act as a shield going ahead to allow Mana to gradually approach the monster and defeat it. He knew she was sad about the past, but he wanted her to remember that currently, she had close teammates who didn't want her to disappear. Mana agreed to listen to Yoshi's plan and followed his strategy. Both of them advanced into the contaminated area, and Yoshi completely shielded Mana until they were within range. As soon as they were in range, Yoshi threw her in. The monster tried to resist and knocked Mana out, but Yoshi managed to catch her, and together they tried again. This time they succeeded in defeating it. Mana was taken back to the hospital, and Chloe saw Mana's smile for the first time. Now, let's talk about the last girl in the group, Yukari. She still couldn't help much on the front lines because she didn't have a divine pact yet, so she always tried her best to help in the rear. She prepared water for Chloe to run back every morning and even took care of minor characters that we might not need to pay attention to. Because she helped so enthusiastically, she was always given a lot of things to take home. Yukari took out the snacks she had just brought back for everyone to try and even made drinks for the goddesses. Artemis now seemed more cheerful because Mana had become more active compared to when they first met. Artemis thought that Yukari was quite talented in understanding other people's hearts. Yukari and Olga were then called to the training room to try combining with Athena. Yukari wasn't suitable, while Olga was rejected outright before even touching. Yukari asked for some methods to combine, but each pair had a different way, so the bureau chief hoped Yukari would soon find her own method. Yukari then returned to the dormitory to prepare food and think about what her own method might be, but she still had no ideas in her head. At the same time, the snake from before suddenly complained of being cold, so the young minor character brought it a drink because the heater for it hadn't been fixed yet. When he arrived, he was shocked to find the snake motionless, so he ran in to check, but it turned out to be a trap, and the entire area was immediately contaminated. The snake came to Yukari's place but didn't harm her, or rather, not yet. Because she had given it food, it wanted to learn a bit more. It knew Yukari cooked quite well and wanted to know if she worshipped deities like it did. Meanwhile, the bureau chief and everyone else had planned to blow up the floor beneath the snake to make it fall into another prison cell. The three girls were at the hospital visiting Mana at this time, so only Yoshi was responsible for rescuing Yukari, while Olga would sneak in to give instructions to Yukari. He found her and quickly gave the instruction for Yukari to stall for time. She was still trying to find answers to satisfy the snake's questions. She agreed to worship it, but it had noticed Olga standing behind for a while, so it turned and knocked him away. It was about to swallow Yukari when the floor exploded, and Yoshi quickly came to catch Yukari. The bureau chief this time personally came into action. She was about to send the snake to heaven to meet the deities when Yukari decided to stand up and protect it. Just as the bomb was about to explode, Yoshi threw his shield in time, but a rock still fell, and the snake protected her in return. When the snake asked why, she thought she realized the snake wasn't evil when it had complimented her. The snake didn't understand why she would risk her life for such a small thing. It found Yukari interesting, so it returned to its original form and thought that Lucifer was right about humans. When Yukari was taken to the hospital, the snake decided to accept her as its contractee. They later gathered everyone to observe her and the snake transform. The two were then truly able to combine, and the three girls didn't understand what had happened. The bureau chief wasn't sure if they could trust the snake, but Yoshi noticed that the two would be very compatible, so it was fine to leave it as is. The two then flew freely in the sky, and Yukari decided to name the snake Quetzi. A few days later, Yoshi informed his sister that tomorrow was a day off because another unit was coming to take over the shift. He decided to visit home and bring Athena along. The next day, as soon as he arrived, he met his sister. The little girl told him to come in because everyone was waiting. He didn't quite understand, but when he entered, everyone had already arrived and wished Yoshi a happy birthday. But today wasn't his birthday, so he knew his sister had lied to lure everyone here to play. Chloe also found it strange because it couldn't be a coincidence that the day off matched Yoshi's birthday like that, but everyone ignored it because they all wanted to come and play for a day. He wondered where his father was, and the two siblings suspected that their father had gone looking for women again. That was correct, as their father brought someone back, and when Yoshi went down to see, he was surprised to find the bureau chief and Nemesis. Both of them had also been tricked by his father into believing it was Yoshi's birthday, so they came to join the celebration. Shiori then went to make food, and Tamaki offered to help. The girls then went to prepare food. Chloe was given the task of decorating. Olga then started bringing things to the table, while Valkyrie didn't understand why Chloe dragged her into the decoration task even though she was terrible at drawing. In the evening, everyone had finished their tasks. Yoshi also wanted his father to do something to help, but he made excuses that he was entertaining the bureau chief to avoid work. Valkyrie saw Nemesis talking happily with someone for the first time, so it seemed she liked Yoshi's father. When the food was served, Tamaki wondered where Yoshi's mother was, and then learned that his mother had passed away many years ago. Yoshi's father asked if anyone here had a lover yet. Venus volunteered because she liked everyone. The father looked at Yoshi and asked if he was interested in anyone yet, because he was surrounded by beautiful girls, so surely he must have thought about such things. But he said he didn't have time for love because just dealing with the city's chaos was already too tiring. After the meal, everyone was busy cleaning up. Tamaki and Venus went to look at photos of Yoshi's mother. Chloe snuck into Yoshi's room to draw graffiti. He came to complain to Chloe, but she thought it was too cute. The bureau chief asked where Athena was and was told she had gone out to buy something. Athena was on her way back and thinking about what Yoshi had said. Suddenly, she met Lucifer again, and he truly just wanted to enjoy life here because he had fought enough in the old world. Lucifer noticed that Athena had fallen for Yoshi, but she thought that when the war here ended, she would return home and no longer interfere with Yoshi's life. Lucifer didn't like that and wanted her to live here if she wanted. Wouldn't it be wonderful for humans and gods to live together? Yoshi came looking, so Lucifer just said hello and left. Yoshi scolded Athena for not calling him earlier when she met such a dangerous person. She was about to call, but Lucifer just wanted to live peacefully. However, Yoshi didn't believe that, so when they left, neither dared to face the other. Afterward, everyone went home. Mana and Artemis would return to get the letter and give up on finding their parents. Venus and the bureau chief went off to drink more together. Yukari and Chloe each went to their own homes. Only Tamaki, Olga, and Nemesis stayed behind. Tamaki and Athena invited each other to take a bath. Nemesis invited her little sister to watch a horror movie. The two boys went upstairs to talk. Yoshi mentioned the Lucifer incident. Olga criticized Yoshi for letting his trust in Athena waver. He argued that not all evil gods who come to this world have bad intentions. One shouldn't label them as dangerous just because of their great power. Tamaki and Athena were also talking inside. Athena felt guilty for dragging everyone into trouble from her own world, so she planned to return to the old world if the war ended. Tamaki didn't want her to talk about such lonely things, so he chatted about things from before. Olga concluded by making Yoshi understand that no one forbids humans and gods from living together, making him realize he was wrong, so he ran to apologize. But Olga noticed it wasn't the right time yet and tried to stop him, though it was too late as the two girls had just finished bathing and bumped into Yoshi. Yoshi was forced to kneel and apologize, but the person he needed to apologize to was Athena, not Tamaki. He went to apologize to Athena and asked her to keep trusting him. Athena was moved and agreed to let it go. Meanwhile, Nemesis and the bureau chief had gone to find someone named Ash, who used to be the bureau chief's superior but seemed to have lost his memory. Sometime later, Ash was taken to a facility in Antarctica, and this place was suddenly attacked by many types of ice monsters. While Yoshi's group was dealing with various matters, Janner called him to the office. There, he received the resignation letter of the bureau chief, or rather Veronica now. Janner told him about everything from before, that Ash had once been Veronica's superior but was possessed by a monster, losing consciousness and becoming infected. The headquarters had hidden and treated Ash under the hospital and now had taken him to a laboratory for examination. Suddenly, the monster that had once possessed Ash broke its chains, escaped, and attacked that laboratory facility. So Veronica's matter was left for Yoshi to handle. On the way, Yukari and Athena wondered why Yoshi looked gloomy. Everyone guessed that he was worried about Veronica. She was now with Nemesis heading to the research facility to fight the monster. She arrived at the nearby military base and checked the cameras to see Ash still lying on the landing pad while the monster was gradually climbing up and unhesitatingly smashing everything in its way. Yoshi's group's plane could no longer fly, so Yukari had to fly while carrying an escape cocoon containing Yoshi and Athena inside. Being a cold-blooded creature, Quetzi quickly became sleepy in this weather. Yukari tried to keep it awake, but instincts were too strong, causing the whole group to fall. The three girls at this time saw Yoshi was quite in danger, but couldn't go because they needed to stay behind to protect the city. Veronica had encountered the monster and was keeping it in place. Yoshi's group also reached that base, so they left Quetzi and Yukari behind while the two chased after Veronica. The soldiers here didn't give the two a chance, so they attacked with drones. Athena, in helping Yoshi, fell inside, so the two merged to avoid injury. The two fumbled around for a while and found a secret entrance. Here, they learned that what Ash had done years ago was to burst with this monster, causing him to lose his mind and the monster to become so frenzied. Quetzi had woken up and was stuffed with a ton of food. The two quickly ran to help Yoshi. They both fell down and quickly pulled Yoshi and Athena up. He assigned Yukari to find Ash's power card while he would go stop Veronica. She was now cornered and had used up all her powers, But Yoshi stood in front to block because it was Ash who had driven the monster mad when she merged with it. He showed her the tape, and the tower had also started to collapse. The monster had fallen. Veronica wanted to finish it off, but when she looked into its eyes, she realized it was the real victim, so she stopped. Yukari had also found a card and returned part of the memory to the monster. The one who had tried to trap Yoshi was arrested for violating the protection law of creatures from other worlds. The group then set off to return. Janner also wanted Veronica to return to the bureau chief position, but she felt she wasn't qualified because she had almost killed an innocent creature. But everyone confessed a sin they had hidden to share responsibility with Veronica. Janner then returned, and Veronica continued with her work. The bureau chief was about to thank Yoshi when everyone started accepting their punishments, so the bureau chief also clearly stated the punishment for each person. The group continued training a few days later, everyone cooperating more smoothly. Yukari would handle the decoy, Mana and Tamaki would herd monsters to the right position, and Yoshi and Chloe would finish them off. Olga still couldn't help much, so he focused on physical training to compensate. Seeing everyone happy with the mock battles made Olga feel even more dejected. Yoshi had the idea to find him and wish him to find a contract soon. Hearing this, Olga felt even more upset but still didn't show it on his face. He went to the prison and met a new receptionist named Mickey. He came here to ask the monsters to help him make a contract and change the world, but only one responded. This one was Enliu, a monster personally captured by the bureau chief. It wanted to go out for a day in exchange for a contract with Olga. He wasn't fooled, so it revealed that its power was on par with Lucifer's. Speaking of the devil, Lucifer came straight into the prison. The bureau chief and Janner were still unaware. Suddenly, security called to inform that someone claiming to be Lucifer had come looking and wanted to meet the highest authority. Emergency mode was activated, but Lucifer said he came with goodwill and wanted to join and make a contract with someone. Olga immediately accepted, but Janna refused, wanting to learn more about Lucifer. He didn't make it difficult, but just kept an eye on Olga and left. Olga went to find Janner to question him, but he didn't object. He just wanted Olga to be cautious of Lucifer for now. Still upset, Olga ran into the simulation room to practice fighting. Even fighting a low-level monster, he still couldn't win. Mickey had watched without permission and slapped him to wake him up. She wanted to hear the story and learned about Lucifer. Olga wanted to gather more information about Lucifer, so it was best to ask someone who knew Lucifer from before, and Enliu was the one Olga approached. It refused to answer because it didn't get anything in return. He promised to let it out for a day, and a warning immediately sounded. Enliu had possessed Olga and escaped. The group had just heard about this and really suspected Olga was the one who released the monster because he had seemed impatient lately. The group later found Enliu. They arranged their formation as during practice, but Enliu only wanted revenge on the bureau chief, so it frantically attacked to force the bureau chief to appear. But because they had learned their lessons well, the group split up and performed exactly as they did during training. The group successfully defeated Enliu and freed Olga. When he woke up, he discovered he could no longer use logic's power. There were also traces of contamination on his body. The group was now trying to protect Olga, saying there was no evidence that Olga had done it. Besides, Olga would temporarily not be in any team because his power usage had been locked, and they had to find the power card. Unfortunately, Lucifer had taken it. The group didn't know, so they still tried to help Olga find it. They all sympathized with Olga's situation because he had been too desperate. When Olga woke up, Mickey was once again by his side taking care of him. She still trusted Olga that he wasn't the one who released Enliu. He said he had been hesitating for a while when suddenly the door opened by itself and he couldn't do anything. Mickey wanted to report this because they had planned to expel Olga. However, he still thought he deserved it. But it was all an act as Mickey was Lucifer's henchman, and right when Olga was psychologically unstable, Lucifer entered. He returned the energy card to Olga and lured him to his side. The next morning, everyone heard that Olga had disappeared. Worse, he had taken the power support device with him. The bureau chief had people trace the location of the power support device Olga took, but they couldn't find it because it might have been destroyed. Quetzi laughed because it was the only one who knew something about this case. Lucifer had now led Olga to a church where his own followers were praying to merge with him. Olga wanted to know why he kept his power card. Lucifer felt sympathy for Olga because he was like him in the past. He had also been defeated in the War of the Gods and exiled. Once labeled as evil, it's hard to escape. Life would be treated unfairly and no one would recognize one's existence. Even if one was a genius, they would be treated no differently. He showed Olga how the people down there were craving power and that he would grant them the best power. Yukari was now flying in the sky to follow Quetzi's instructions and discovered Lucifer's hideout as well as the fact that Olga was actually with him. However, the people in the organization discovered that the person who opened the cage was Mickey. They didn't know Lucifer's true purpose, so they wanted to find a way to secretly bring Olga back, because waging war with Lucifer at this time was not a wise thing to do. The group then wanted to know how Quetzi found Lucifer's location, and it said it was due to instinct, but no one believed it, so it confessed that it had previously made a bet with Lucifer and lost. So when Lucifer pushed it here through the gate, he also tricked many monsters to come along. It didn't know what Lucifer's purpose was, so Chloe put it on the stove to force it to confess more, but that was all it knew. Everyone now could understand that the monsters coming to this world were all brought by Lucifer, so Olga might have been deceived and manipulated by Lucifer at this point. Lucifer had now shared his desire to create a world where humans and gods could coexist. He had successfully gained Olga's trust. He then introduced Olga to everyone and declared that he would merge with him. Olga was a bit hesitant, but now he wouldn't return to the security bureau anymore. He also had no way back, so he decided to go with Lucifer. The people down there were all happy about Olga's presence. They thought he would be the leader from heaven. The group of goddesses now wondered if Olga was seeing Lucifer as a heaven-sent opportunity to unite. Even if his unification with Lucifer wasn't to protect the city, it was to prove himself. Everyone felt uneasy, and right at this moment, Olga and Lucifer had officially merged. The merging signal of both was detected by the security bureau. They were then shocked to discover that Lucifer had merged with Olga. Olga was now spreading false information to the people and blaming the security bureau as the bad guys. The organization had to send people to capture Lucifer, but Yoshi asked to go and talk in an attempt to bring Olga back. Athena also had to go along, but she was only allowed to hide nearby and only intervene if things got out of control. When they arrived, Yoshi let Olga know that he had been exonerated, so he should return to everyone. But Olga no longer needed to return and wanted to fight Yoshi. Yoshi didn't want to fight, so Olga didn't bother to negotiate and attacked Yoshi right away, forcing Athena to run out and ask Yoshi to transform to both fight and persuade. They then tried to fend off Olga's attacks and still tried to reason with him to come to his senses. Olga didn't bother to listen and kept attacking, using every move from weak to strong. Meanwhile, Mana had helped the security bureau discover that Lucifer's followers were all having their power cards swapped. Lucifer's purpose was to give gods a place in this world and humans the ideal power they desired. He saw this as a win-win situation and the ideal world he wanted. Olga revealed that this was also the path he chose. They both talked about their ideals, and Olga decided to believe in Lucifer that he would create a world where Lucifer's followers could live happily. Yoshi tried to remind him that he had been brainwashed by Lucifer, but he didn't listen and even knocked Yoshi down. Yoshi knew he couldn't use words, so he would use force to bring Olga back. But just as he threw his shield, Olga used a black hole to suck it in and fired back a move. The three girls and the bureau chief then came to help, but Olga dodged them all and started launching a series of moves to retaliate. He continuously threw dozens of stars to chase after each person. The bureau chief's move was sucked into his black hole. and so one by one they were hit and had to retreat behind Yoshi for him to block instead. But Olga launched more stars that even Yoshi couldn't block. Olga still had no intention of stopping and caused the whole group to be knocked down. After that, he proceeded to the prison to release the remaining monsters. Janner came to dissuade him but was attacked, and he also took the opportunity to attack the prisons to release the monsters. Upon returning to the church, Olga and Lucifer met with the followers again and showed them the first people chosen to merge, while also recruiting more volunteers to become fusion subjects with monsters. Lucifer's contaminated area was quickly created and monsters appeared simultaneously. The organization couldn't call back to headquarters because the contaminated area had blocked all communication signals. Citizens had to be evacuated quickly, and Janner had also moved here and informed that from now on, he would take over command here. Other branches were also busy, so it seemed they had to be self-reliant. Those who could fight were sent to battle, and their mission was to close all the space gates above the city. Everyone then merged and went to different locations. Yoshi went to find Olga. Veronica wanted him to try to buy time so she could settle the score with Enlil on this side. Yoshi then began to engage in direct combat with Olga instead of waiting for Olga to make the first move. Yukari went to catch the low-level monster at the kindergarten. She had detected it early and quickly attacked. Being low level, it could only run away. Mana initially dealt with the Hellhound. Chloe encountered the puppet monster from before, while Tamaki struggled the most, having to fight the rocket-firing monster that Yoshi had faced with them when they first met. At the organization now, some people showed unease about separating everyone to fight, while in the past they had to work together to defeat each of these monsters. Only the level 1 demon was being dealt with by Yukari, someone without combat experience. But the commander wanted everyone to trust in the warriors. Janner had no choice but to put his faith in their warriors. Yukari had now found that level 1 monster. Mana had gradually become accustomed to the movement and attack rhythm of the monster she was facing. The puppet monster had launched ropes to capture Chloe, but she managed to escape. Tamaki had to find a way to attack instead of constantly using healing magic. They then proved the results of their training by unleashing their strongest moves one after another. Veronica lured Enlil into the mine trap she had set. Mana ran out to the right range and executed a powerful shot. Chloe enlarged her sword and charged forward to deliver a strike aimed at the puppet monster. Tamaki also switched to using a whip and delivered the finishing blow. Yukari just calmly recited her move and Quetzi took care of the rest. Now only the strongest one, Lucifer, remained. However, for now, only Veronica could come to assist Yoshi because the others had all run out of energy. But Yoshi felt that just the two of them were enough. Yoshi had used his new ability, the Absorption Shield, which allowed him to absorb all attacks, but at the cost of consuming a lot of energy. He stood to block attacks while Veronica took care of attacking. But the staff on the other side also had a trick to absorb attacks, leaving Veronica somewhat at a loss. However, Yoshi noticed that Olga couldn't both attack and defend simultaneously, so he planned to lure Olga into attacking and let her counterattack during that time. He then switched back to the normal shield and charged forward to throw the shield at Olga. Just as Olga attacked, Veronica launched her move, but he had calculated this beforehand by summoning another staff, and thus could now attack and defend comprehensively. Olga then launched 2 attacks at once. Yoshi had run out of energy and was forced back into human form, so Veronica used her body to shield him and Athena, and then fell unconscious. Olga revealed that from the beginning, this was never a battle, and the path Yoshi chose would only lead to failure. Olga left, giving Yoshi time to think and come back for a rematch. Other branches had now fallen, and they were now Lucifer's final checkpoint. Yoshi's group then returned to the base, and he felt he wasn't strong enough to defeat Olga. He then went with Athena to meet his father and sister. He still decided to keep his promise to his sister that he wouldn't lose to anyone. He would defeat the final boss and prove that he was the main character. He then had something he wanted to discuss with Athena. At this moment, Veronica had also regained consciousness, although she was still injured, but now they had to do something as they couldn't stay here forever. Yoshi and Athena then went to Janner to ask for permission and then returned to the battlefield themselves. The girls later came to ask why Janner let Yoshi fight even though he couldn't defeat Lucifer, but he informed them that Yoshi had chosen that option. That's right, both had chosen to use the burst as a last resort. The girls had just heard this and still didn't understand what was happening when Yoshi arrived and asked for permission to activate. Janner allowed it because this was the path both had chosen. Yoshi changed his armor and now had a spear to accompany him. Seeing that both had resorted to this, Lucifer also wanted Olga to be careful because both might have to use this measure as well. Olga then took out 2 sticks and tried a technique, but Yoshi summoned many shields to absorb the attack completely. Yoshi then grabbed the spear and charged, stabbing once, which sent Olga flying dozens of meters. Olga laughed because the power of both was now truly immense. So he and Lucifer also decided to go all out for this battle. Lucifer and Olga then activated their burst to fight a decisive battle. The contaminated area was stretched wider and spread to the base, affecting everyone inside. Venus wanted everyone to leave the base, but everyone wanted to stay and watch how the battle would turn out. Yoshi also asked Athena to protect everyone and then expanded his own power zone. It neutralized Lucifer's zone and temporarily kept everyone safe. Both sides asked each other what the so-called paradise should be like. For Lucifer and Olga, it was a place where people could live equally with no one superior to others. But for Athena and Yoshi, it was a place where people could live happily beside those they cherished. Both sides charged in to avoid complications, and the opening was just a display of sword skills. Olga had just pushed Yoshi back when he threw his shield and then thrust again, forcing Olga to retreat. But the shield returned and helped Yoshi react in time to kick Olga to the edge of the tower. But when Yoshi had just cornered Olga to the edge, Olga still boldly claimed that Yoshi's chances of victory were still almost impossible, and this would be the end for both him and Athena. Olga created a black hole and trapped Yoshi inside. The black hole exploded, and afterward only Yoshi was seen lying defeated. The girls didn't want to sit still, so they ran off to do something. Janner couldn't stop them because losing this battle meant the future would be lost too. Yoshi continued to stand up when Olga summoned a bunch of meteors, forcing him to create shields to defend. The girls then ran to stand in front of Yoshi. Olga didn't want to hurt them because this was a battle between him and Yoshi, but Lucifer said no and took control. Veronica stood up to block the attack, but Olga regained control and didn't let Lucifer take over again. He now revealed his true face, wanting to dominate the world rather than turn it into paradise. He didn't care about the so-called sharing of energy because what he gave away he could take back. Olga threw away his stick and decided to fight with his own strength. He then charged in to fight hand-to-hand with Yoshi. Olga rushed in with a kick that sent Yoshi flying, then charged in with a punch that shook the entire tower. But Yoshi rushed back with a painful punch to Olga. The decrease in trust between Olga and Lucifer weakened him and gave the advantage back to Yoshi, but he wanted to save everyone including Olga because of his greedy ideals. Olga was the first to reach his limit and was about to be separated. Yoshi then used his power to envelop Olga to help him not be affected by the side effects of the burst. However, right after that, Yoshi gradually exhausted and reached his limit. His energy cards once again flew away, and the girls, despite trying everything, still couldn't hold on to them. 1 week later, Athena woke up. The group had collected most of the cards, but were still missing just one final one. Olga was the one who gave them this idea, and he now had to carry 3 bombs that Veronica had planted. If he had any intention of betraying, he would be blown to pieces immediately. Lucifer had been imprisoned, but when Olga came to talk, he wanted him to change as well. However, being the demon of pride, Lucifer wouldn't listen to anyone. Olga had kept one of Lucifer's power cards. This was the card of the ideal world that Lucifer had once wanted to create. Olga would keep it to remind himself not to be tempted again. And at the same time, he would try to create the world as Lucifer had once idealized. After that, Lucifer completely disappeared. Athena had met Yoshi again, but the only missing card contained Yoshi's memories, so now he didn't remember who Athena was. Athena had lost her feelings for Yoshi, but she had previously promised Yoshi that she would go find him again to ask him for a favor as per their promise. The battle between the two worlds had come to an end. Everyone thought the goddesses would return, but they all chose to stay here because this place meant a lot to them. The group then went traveling everywhere to find Yoshi's memory card. He was put into training from the beginning, but he kept escaping at every opportunity, giving Olga a headache. When Athena heard the news, she returned to the hill from before and found Yoshi. He also wanted to help everyone find the cards, and he had found Athena's. Her emotions returned to her, and she promised to help Yoshi find his soon. And with this, the movie comes to an end.